Have you ever stopped chasing something, just completely let go of it, and then suddenly it showed up? Like the moment you quit obsessing over the job, they called you. The moment you stopped checking your phone every 5 minutes waiting for that person to text, they texted. The moment you genuinely stopped caring whether the business deal closed, it closed. And you probably wrote it off as a coincidence, right? Maybe just good timing. But what if it wasn't random at all? What if there's actually a law at work, a principle that the most successful, most grounded people in the world quietly understand, and it runs completely backwards from everything you and I were ever taught about achievement? Because here's what I want to show you in this video. Wanting something so badly, chasing it, grinding for it, forcing it, that's not the engine of results. In a very real way, it's the wall that's standing between you and the results. And once you understand why, nothing looks the same. My name is Daniel Moreno, and I've been sitting with this idea for a long time. Years, honestly. And I still think it's one of the most misunderstood things in the entire conversation around personal growth, around manifestation, around achievement. So let me break it down. There's a principle sometimes called the backwards law. And the simplest version of it is this. The harder you push towards something, the more you create an internal signal that you don't have it. And that signal, that frequency you're broadcasting, is actually what keeps the thing away. It's a mouthful, I know. Let me make it simple. Think about a goal you have right now. Just one thing. More money, a better relationship, a healthier body. Got it? Now honestly, when you think about that goal, how do you feel? Most people, if they're being real with themselves, feel some version of stressed, anxious, behind, like they should be further along, like maybe they're missing something that everyone else figured out. And that feeling, that constant low-grade tension, is what I'd call resistance. And resistance is the one thing that breaks the equation. Here's the equation, and it's stupidly simple. Desire plus non-resistance equals the desired result. That's it. You want something, great. Desire is not the problem. The problem is the wall of resistance that almost immediately goes up the second you realize you want it. Because the moment you recognize you want more money, your brain immediately scans your bank account and shows you the gap. The moment you decide you want a deeper relationship, your nervous system lights up with loneliness. The moment you commit to better health, your brain starts cataloging every way your body is currently falling short. That's just how the human operating system works, right? The brain locks on to the absence of the thing. And from that absence, resistance is born. Now there are two states you're always operating from. And I mean always. You're never in both at once, and you're never in neither. The first is what I'd call a powerful state. Joy, curiosity, calm, certainty, creative flow. This is your nervous system in its parasympathetic mode. Rest, openness, possibility. When you're here, you have access to ideas you didn't have before. You notice opportunities you'd normally walk right past. You have a kind of presence that other people feel when they're around you. And when you're in that state, the things you want start moving toward you because the channel is open. Then there's what I'd call a primal state. Anxiety, stress, overwhelm, that grinding feeling of not enough. This is your sympathetic nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze. And in that state, you are literally running on survival wiring. You have no access to creativity. You're not recognizing opportunity. You're just trying to get through the day. And the brutal irony is that most people spend most of their time in that second state specifically because they're chasing the outcomes they want. I personally think the hustle culture conversation is the most dangerous thing that's happened to this generation's relationship with success. And I know that's a strong take. But think about it. Every algorithm, every influencer, every 5 a.m. club post is basically telling you that if you just suffer more, sacrifice more, grind harder, the result will show up. And sure, there are moments in any worthwhile pursuit where discipline matters. But that energy, the energy of, I might not get this unless I force it, is a primal state. It's the broadcast of lack, and it reinforces exactly the scarcity it's trying to escape. Gandhi, and I know this sounds like a wild comparison, but Gandhi managed to mobilize an entire nation through nonviolent action. He didn't out-hustle the British Empire. He actually said something like, "I have so much to accomplish today, I must meditate for twice as long." He was obsessed with his inner state. Not because it was a nice feeling, but because he understood that his inner state was the source of everything that would flow from it. That's not woo. That's a man who understood the backwards law better than most productivity gurus alive today. So the question becomes, if resistance is the problem, how do you actually release it? Because you can't just tell yourself to stop worrying, right? That's like telling someone not to think about a pink elephant. The moment I say that, there it is. Big pink ears and everything. So the answer isn't suppression, it's redirection. And that's where the real work lives. I want to give you something practical here. Not just the philosophy, but an actual framework you can use. Today, not someday. A few years back, I was going through a stretch where I felt genuinely stuck. I had a clear picture of where I wanted to go, the kind of work I wanted to be doing, the kind of impact I wanted to have. And every day, I was waking up and grinding toward it, taking the action, checking the boxes, and feeling worse and worse the whole time. More tense, more depleted. And I remember sitting down one evening and just asking myself, honestly, what does the version of me that's already arrived actually feel like? Not what does he have? What does he feel like? And when I really sat with that, I realized the version of me I was trying to become felt calm, present, not urgent. And the version of me sitting in that chair felt like a coiled spring. And that gap between who I was being and who I needed to be, that was the whole thing. That was the entire game. Here's what Neville Goddard called it. He called it assuming the wish fulfilled. Assume it's already done. Not fake it till you make it. That's too surface level. This is deeper than that. This is actually stepping into the identity of the person who has already produced the outcome and asking, how does that person think? How does that person feel? What does that person do on a Tuesday morning? So here's a simple exercise, and I want you to actually do this. Pick one thing you want, one outcome. Write it at the top of a page and create 3 columns. In the first column, emotions. Ask yourself, if this were already done, if I already had this result in my life, how would I feel? Not how would I celebrate, that's different. How would I feel on a random Wednesday? Probably secure, probably calm, probably generous, probably present. Write those down. Then below that, write down how you feel right now while you're in pursuit of that thing. Be honest. Probably anxious, probably impatient, probably tight in the chest every time you check on the thing. Now you've got the gap on paper. Column 2, thoughts. What would the future version of you be thinking? Not, I can't believe I finally made it. That's a one-day thought. What's the everyday mental chatter? Probably thinking about where to invest next. Probably thinking about who to connect with. Probably thinking about giving, expanding, building. Now, what are you thinking today while you're chasing? Probably the opposite. Not enough. Behind. What if it doesn't work? What's wrong with me? Write it down. See it clearly. Column 3, actions. This is where people get tripped up because they think, future me takes private jets and I can't afford a private jet. That's not what this is about. Would future you tip more generously at dinner? Probably. Would future you be more present with your family instead of half checked out worrying about money? Would future you be researching and planning instead of doom scrolling? Would future you be moving through the day with a different posture, a different pace? Those are accessible today, right now, not someday. And here's what's wild. I actually tested this once. And look, I'm going to tell you something that sounds almost too simple, but stay with me. There was a period where I committed for about 30 days to running a version of this exercise every morning. Not meditating for hours, not doing some elaborate ritual, just 10 minutes of sitting with the question, how does this version of me actually move through the day? And within that month, I'm not exaggerating, 3 separate opportunities came to me that I hadn't manufactured through any hustle or outreach. They came through connection, through conversation, through being in the right state to notice and respond when something showed up. That's not magic. That's alignment creating the conditions for the result to land. Because here's the core truth, and this is what the backwards law actually says at its deepest level. You don't produce results by chasing them. You produce results by becoming the version of yourself those results naturally come from. The result is a byproduct of identity. Repeated thoughts, repeated feelings, repeated actions, those crystallize into reality over time. You become what you consistently practice internally, not what you force externally. Christ said all you need is the faith of a mustard seed. That's not a throwaway line, right? That's the most precise description of the identity shift threshold I've ever heard. It doesn't have to be a massive transformation overnight. A small shift in how you're thinking, how you're feeling, and what you're doing. Just enough to tip the balance. And reality starts to reorganize around that. Mountains move. That's the gospel of the backwards law. So if there's one thing to carry out of this video, it's this. Stop waiting for the result to give you permission to feel the way the result would make you feel. The permission is already yours. Feel it now. Think it now. Do it now, even in small ways. Because the life you're reaching for isn't something you achieve by force. It's something you grow into by alignment. And the moment you shift the identity, the evidence follows. Every single time. If this landed for you, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and share this video with one person you think needs to hear it. It genuinely makes a difference, and I read every comment. Talk soon.